The film begins after the downfall of Yuri Boyka. Once the undefeated prison fight champion, Boyka suffered a devastating knee injury in his match against George Chambers years earlier. Because of this crippling damage, the once fearsome fighter is now mocked and belittled by Warden Dmitry and the guards, who have reduced him to a simple prison janitor. Even though Boyka is no longer a competitor, mixed martial arts matches continue inside Kholmy prison, where Vladimir Pykov reigns as the strongest fighter, backed by his sponsor, Gaga. This mafia boss had previously promoted both Boyka and Chambers. After one of the fights, Boyka, now almost unrecognizable, scrubs the filthy prison floors as Gaga and Dmitry walk past him. One of Gaga's men recognizes Boyka from his limping gait and tries to hand him some money, which Boyka refuses. Meanwhile, Gaga has expanded his prison fight operations into an international martial arts event called the Prison Sports Competition, or PSC, bringing together the best fighters from prisons all around the world to compete for prizes that include the clearing of their criminal records and early release. When Gaga tells Boyka about this inter-prison tournament and the upcoming preliminary round at Kholmy prison, Boyka immediately expresses his desire to join, especially after being denied parole yet again. But Gaga refuses, convinced that Boyka's knee is beyond repair and that he is a relic of the past. Desperate for a chance at freedom, Boyka throws himself into grueling training, determined to restore his knee and reclaim the fighter he once was. He cuts his hair, shaves his thick beard, and prepares himself for a comeback. A few days later, after the reigning champion Vladimir Saev defeats his opponent in the final round of the prison tournament, Boyka splashes water on him and boldly challenges him to a match. Infuriated, Saev accepts without hesitation. Their fight is brief. Boyka overwhelms Pykov with surprising speed, earning his place as Russia's representative for the PSC event. His return to the ring and the taste of victory rekindle the fighting spirit that had long been dormant since the bout that made him famous. Soon after, Boyka is transferred to Corgan prison in Georgia, along with 8 other fighters from around the world who will compete in the PSC martial arts tournament. The fighters are assembled and addressed by Warden Gus. Among the competitors, aside from Boyka, are Kratz from Croatia, Dupont from France, Mavros from Greece, Lanchi from North Korea, Silva from Brazil, Turbo from the United States, and the Dola from Colombia. When sent to their quarters, they see officials clearing a massive area inside the prison that will become the battle arena. Meanwhile, somewhere else, Gaga meets with 2 other mobsters, Fernity and Rizzo, to discuss betting arrangements. Rizzo suggests that they all back a single fighter with the highest likelihood of winning, Dola, who is revealed to be Rizzo's star fighter. However, Gaga insists on betting on Boyka, and Fernity on Turbo, as both believe strongly in their fighters' abilities. The next day, the prison fighters are taken to a stone mining area where the foreign contestants are forced into brutal labor under strict guard, while Dola sits comfortably reading a book. The other fighters were only allowed to train for 1 hour each day to prepare for the match, and they still had to do heavy labor in the rock quarry for long hours. Meanwhile, the Lore was given special treatment during his sparring sessions and was not required to do any hard work. While working in the mine, Boyka got into a heated argument with Turbo, who believed that Boyka was all talk and no action. When the fighters returned to the prison for their 1-hour training session, Dolor was approached by Kuss, who offered him performance-enhancing drugs. Before long, the day of the tournament arrived. The crowd seemed eager and bet large sums of money to support their favorite fighters, all in hopes of boosting the profits of Gaga and the other members of the mafia. The first match was between Silva and Mavros, a fight that Silva won. Next was Turbo, who easily defeated Kratz from Croatia. Turbo's victory brought joy to Farnuti, who cheered for his fighter. The tournament continued, and this time, Boyka was set to face Dupont, a fighter from France. Once again, Boyka triumphed in the ring. At this point, Dmitry, the guards, and all the prisoners at Koryachom prison were rooting for Boyka. They celebrated when he won his match and advanced to the semi-finals. The final battle was between the Lore and Lunch, where Dori quickly secured victory. Thanks to their successes, Boyka, Turbo, the Lore, and Silva advanced to the next round. Meanwhile, the fighters who had lost were quickly removed from the scene. Believing they were being sent back to their countries, Kay instructed his men to kill the fighters who failed to make it to the semifinals. The following day, when the fighters returned to the quarry for more hard labor, Boyka had another confrontation with Turbo, which led to a fight. As a result, both were thrown into a small, cramped cell. They were later released through manipulation by Gaga and Fernati. Boyka and Turbo then revealed the forced labor they were being made to do, and the special treatment received by Duranguin. After hearing about the mistreatment of the top fighters, the two mafia bosses visited Warden Casa's office. There, they met with Rizzo, the mastermind behind the PSC, who explained that the tournament had always been rigged to ensure high profits with minimal risk. The forced labor was deliberately designed to physically weaken the other fighters, ensuring that Daler would be the one to win the match. Rizzo suggested that Gaga and Fernati cash out all their assets and place their bets on the Lore, who was certain to win. Rizzo guaranteed that they would double their profits. Realizing that their loyalty to their fighter only went as far as their profits, Gaga and Fernati agreed to the arrangement. Meanwhile, Boyka and Turbo had another confrontation in the quarry. "You wanna do this again? See me move. You move with me." However, after the argument, they found common ground and eventually came to an understanding. As time passed, Boyka and Turbo gradually began to trust each other and focused their efforts on defeating Dor in the tournament. After discovering that the PSC tournament was rigged by the Mafia, who had already decided who would win, Boyka and Turbo began working even harder in the quarry as part of their training, aiming to increase their physical strength. One day, as Boyka was lifting a large rock, Turbo realized he had a knee injury. He then gave Turbo a root from an herb believed to relieve pain from injuries. Boyka, noticing a tattoo on Turbo's body, asked him about its meaning. Turbo revealed that the tattoo was inspired by his son and daughter. When Turbo asked Boyka about his reason for fighting, Boyka explained that God had given him the gift of being the best fighter in the world, so he fought to honor that gift and earn the respect he deserved. Meanwhile, elsewhere, it was revealed that Gaga had doubled his bet as suggested by Rizzo. In the semifinals, Boyka would face Silva. The battle between the two was intense. However, in the end, Boyka managed to defeat Silva using a triangular headlock. After the victory was declared and Boyka was entitled to move on to the final round, he helped Silva to his feet and praised him for an excellent fight. But not long after, Silva, like the other defeated fighters, was killed. Realizing that Boyka and Turbo were stronger than anticipated, Rizzo and Warden Koss devised a plan and instructed the guards to beat up Turbo. As Boyka was walking toward his cell, he was shocked to see Turbo in a beaten and bruised condition. Meanwhile, the Lore confronted Boyka by insulting him, calling him the champion of the sewers and threatening to kill Turbo in their semi-final fight. However, Boyka remained calm, did not respond to Daler's taunts, and increased the intensity of his training, especially focusing on rehabilitating his injured knee. On the other hand, Daler was also training hard for the upcoming match. Boyka couldn't bear to see Turbo suffering, still pushing himself to train despite his serious injuries. The next day, when the prisoners were brought in for the next round of hard labor, Boyka tried to convince Turbo to escape rather than face Daler in his injured state. Knowing that Turbo was a former soldier, Boyka devised a plan for Turbo to escape into the forest, where the security was lighter, so he could survive long enough to eventually make contact with the black market. At first, Turbo disagreed. However, another prisoner revealed that the defeated fighters were being executed. This revelation made Turbo change his mind, and he agreed to the plan. Boyka tried to break Turbo's chains, but he was caught by the guards. This led to both of them having to fight the guards for a long enough period of time to get the keys. Once they were freed, Turbo immediately ran toward the forest. Boyka, however, was pursued by armed guards. Afterward, Boyka was thrown back into the prison, where he faced Rizzo, Wardenkas, and Gaga, who revealed that he had changed his bet and fully supported Dor, claiming that Dor was already the guaranteed winner. Realizing he had lost their support, Boyka promised to crush Gagas and the Mafia's bets by defeating Dor in the final round. The scene then shifted to the final battle. Because Turbo had escaped, Dor immediately went to face Boyka. The stakes were high, with the crowd and the mobsters betting heavily on Dor's victory. The battle between the Lore and Boyka was intense. Dor gained the upper hand with his incredibly fast and powerful attacks, enhanced by his larger build compared to Boyka. Music, knowing that Boyka had suffered a severe knee injury, Dor didn't hesitate to kick Boyka there, catching him off guard. He trapped Boyka's knee and ruthlessly battered him. Dor didn't stop there and continued attacking Boyka's knee. As Boyka's agility and kicking ability started to fade, he relied on his endurance and pain tolerance to survive Dor's brutal attacks. Just when everyone thought the fight was over after Boyka was thrown out of the ring, Boyka spotted a mop and bucket used to clean up blood after the fights. They resembled the tools he had used in his training, and with the last of his strength, Boyka returned to the ring before the 10 count. He then wrapped the bloody rag from the mop around his knee. Boyka began to use a new fighting style that combined grappling, dirty boxing, headbutts, elbows, wrestling, and street fighting. In the end, he brought Dor down by breaking his foot, shattering Gaga's doubts and those of everyone who thought Boyka had no chance of winning. After losing his bet and losing a great deal of money, Fernati stormed into Wardenkas' office. He shot Rizzo, but soon after, Wardenkas shot Fernati. Despite winning the tournament, Boyka wasn't allowed to leave, as the guards hadn't yet found Turbo. Since Boyka was responsible for Turbo's escape, Kas stated that Turbo would remain free while Boyka would be transferred back to his original prison in Russia. Boyka, indifferent, replied that he no longer cared. Like the other defeated fighters in the prison, Boyka was to be killed. However, he was saved just in time by Turbo. The two then headed for a vehicle, where Gaga was waiting inside. It turned out that Gaga had not followed Rizzo's advice but had instead doubled down on his bet, backing Boyka's victory. Gaga revealed to Boyka that he had known all along that Boyka was the best and strongest fighter in the world, especially when enraged. That's why he bet everything he had on Boyka's success, fooling the other mobsters. Not only that, but Gaga had also gone as far as saving and hiding Turbo when he escaped. Afterward, Gaga gifted Boyka a suitcase full of money for his victory in the PSC tournament. Before parting ways, Boyka finally revealed his first name to Turbo, Yuri. In return, Turbo confessed that his real name was Jericho, not realizing that Boyka had special regard for people's religious preferences. As a token of thanks, Boyka thanked Turbo for saving him. Turbo then challenged Boyka to a future fight, which Boyka accepted. In the end, Boyka stepped out of the car with a bag full of money, walking toward freedom as the film concluded. If you like the movie, please hit the like button.